Imagine that you are holding in your hand the very key that can open every door of destiny. No longer governed by chance or circumstance, you begin to see that every thought you sustain and every word you utter is a seed of creation, silently shaping the course of your life. This is not merely a journey of knowledge, but a journey of rediscovering the power within, where you learn to sow the right seed, to wait for the appointed season, to live in harmony with your divine nature, and to rewrite the entire script of your life with words of power. Each chapter of this journey becomes a step on the ladder leading you toward peace, abundance, and conscious oneness, until you walk as a sacred author, the sovereign of your destiny. Opening vision. You are the author of your own destiny. Envision a simple yet mighty truth. No one but you can write the script of your life. Life is not determined by chance, nor imposed by invisible forces outside of you. It is woven from the threads of thought you plant each day. Thought is the seed, and the subconscious is the fertile soil, ever ready to bring forth fruit. Every seed you plant will sprout, grow, and become reality in your life. If you sow seeds of faith, you will reap strength. If you sow seeds of love, you will harvest harmony. If you sow seeds of fear and doubt, you will likewise reap them in the form of failure, illness, or lack. This is the immutable law of the mind, and it is through this law that you write your destiny. Consider a garden. The diligent gardener never sows a seed without knowing what harvest is intended. If roses are desired, rose seeds are planted. If wheat is desired, wheat is sown. No one scatters thorns and expects to gather sweet fruit. Yet in the spiritual life, many people unconsciously plant seeds of worry, anger, and resentment while yearning for peace and abundance. That is like a man planting weeds and complaining that no roses appear in his garden. The wise understand that the mind is also soil, and their greatest duty is to be the conscious gardener, knowing well what is sown, and thus reaping accordingly. Every thought is a command issued to the subconscious, and your subconscious never argues. It does not distinguish between true or false, present or future. It simply receives and faithfully builds according to the blueprint you hand it. When you consistently affirm the noble visualize abondance and trust that you are guided and protected, the subconscious immediately sets to work, arranging circumstances to reflect precisely what you have planted. This is no illusion, no blind faith. It is a spiritual law proven by countless experiences. Whoever understands and applies it transforms life. A man in the midst of financial crisis once came to me, despairing after losing his job. With his family in hardship, I did not tell him to look for luck outside, but showed him that power lay within. I instructed him each morning to sit quietly, close his eyes, and affirm, I am the master of my thoughts. I am guided by infinite wisdom. I am worthy of new opportunity. As he affirmed, he pictured himself entering a new office, working with joy, seeing his family smile in happiness. 3 weeks later, as though the river had found its natural course, he was contacted by a company offering him a position better than the one he had lost. He was astonished, but this was no accident. It was the law. When the right image is planted, the right result appears. You can test this today. Even now, listen to the silent dialogue within your mind. What are you saying to yourself? Are you sowing thoughts such as I cannot? I am too tired. I am not good enough. If so, you are giving your subconscious orders to produce exactly the conditions you fear. But you can change direction instantly. You can say, I am strong. I am abundant. I am guided, and the subconscious will record it as a new command. Every thought you nurture is a brick in the house of your life. The scriptures say, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is not merely a moral exhortation, but a directive of spiritual science. To renew the mind is to renew life. When you change your manner of thinking, your inner conversation, your circumstances must also change, reflecting the new state within. The universe is a mirror, and the mirror reflects only the image you place before it. Many think destiny is predetermined, that life is a chain of random events. But once you grasp this law, destiny is not a sentence, but a blank canvas awaiting your brush. Your thought is the brush, your faith the color, and your imagination the form. However you paint, so shall the picture appear. No one else can paint it for you. The moment you accept this truth, you reclaim the key of power that has always been yours. Ask yourself, what seed will you sow today? Will you plant seeds of peace or of anxiety? Seeds of love or of resentment? Seeds of abundance or of lack? Do not forget, whatever seed you plant, the subconscious will faithfully cause it to grow, and the harvest cannot be escaped. Therefore, choose wisely. There is a secret, simple yet profound. When you begin planting positive seeds, life transforms not only outwardly but inwardly. You feel a sense of mastery, no longer helpless before circumstances. Peace, like the farmer who trusts the harvest will come once the seed is sown. This is the greatest freedom, for you are no longer swept by the storms of the outer world, but stand firm on the foundation of the thoughts you have chosen. If today your life is filled with difficulties, remember, no prison binds you except the thoughts you permit to dwell in your mind, and no liberation lies far away. Save the decision you make now to change the seed you are planting. You are the one who holds the pen, the one who sows, the author of your destiny. No one else can do it for you. Begin today by choosing a thought, planting it in your subconscious with faith, and tending it with perseverance. You will witness the miracle unfolding day by day. Logos and the subconscious, communion with the creative intelligence within you. Since the dawn of philosophy, the Stoic sages spoke of the Logos, the great rational principle permeating all things, the invisible order governing the universe. They called Logos the reason of the cosmos, the divine breath flowing through every star, the impartial law present in every speck of dust. And in the soul of man, Logos is not some distant deity enthroned above, but the living intelligence coursing through the veins of your spirit, always ready to guide you, if only you will listen. Joseph Murphy called it the creative intelligence of the subconscious. It does not judge, it does not argue. It simply receives and responds with exact fidelity to the seeds you sow in faith and thought. When you align yourself with the Logos, you are no longer alone in the journey. You walk with the very force that keeps the stars in their courses and your heart beating in your chest. Scientific prayer is the bridge that links you with the Logos. Many imagine prayer to be a plea to some external power, but true prayer is an affirmation addressed to the subconscious, declaring that you believe in the good, that you are in harmony with the divine order already established. When you practice scientific prayer, you do not beg, you affirm. You do not supplicate, you declare, for the Logos is already within you, and your subconscious is the gateway through which Logos acts. Think for a moment of how a seed works. You plant an orange seed in the soil, and the earth does not dispute that the seed is small, that the winter is harsh, or that the sower is unworthy. The earth simply receives it. embraces it, and faithfully brings forth the life inherent in the seed. Your thoughts are the seeds. Your subconscious is the soil. Logos is the invisible power that causes the seed to germinate. And you, by faith, are the sower. Ask yourself now, what seeds are you planting in your subconscious today? I once met a university professor who for many years lived in exhaustion and inner crisis. He worked hard, studied much, yet the harder he worked, the more depleted he became. When he came to me, he said his life felt drained. I asked him if he had ever allowed the Logos within him to speak. He was astonished, for he had never considered it. I advised him each night before sleep to close his eyes and quietly say, "The divine intelligence within me guides me in love to the true expression of myself." Only a simple, clear command was needed, and the subconscious would perform the rest. A few months later, he was no longer weary. He found new inspiration in writing and soon published a book that received high acclaim. His transformation did not come from outside, but from the moment he learned to commune with the Logos within. My friend, I pause here to ask you a question. Have you noticed in yourself moments when intuition spoke, when a gentle whisper guided you to a right decision? That reason alone could not explain. That was the Logos moving within you. Have you ever stopped to listen, to give thanks for its presence? Answer honestly in your heart, and let me thank you for your presence here. Makes this conversation alive. You see, Logos does not demand degrees, nor ritual, nor complication. It asks only sincerity and readiness. The subconscious requires no complex lectures, only clear directives. When you say to yourself, "I am at peace, I am healthy, I am guided," the subconscious receives it as a blueprint. And Logos is the power that builds. When you affirm the negative, "I cannot, I am powerless, I am afraid," the subconscious likewise accepts it, and Logos faithfully constructs according to what you have declared. You are the helmsman, and Logos is the wind. If you set the sail rightly, the ship goes straight. If your sail is torn by negative thoughts, the wind still blows, but your vessel will drift astray. That is why scientific prayer is the act of repairing the sail and turning it into the right current. When you pray, you do not change Logos. You change yourself. You do not command the universe, you attune to it. And when the rhythm is one, your life becomes a song of harmony. Throughout my years of teaching, I have always emphasized this. Every person can enter communion with Logos right where they stand. You need not wait for ideal conditions, nor for a great event. In this very moment, you may choose to plant in your subconscious a new image, a new affirmation, and from that point begin a new life. There is a marvel you will discover. Logos never forces. It does not shout. It does not impose. It whispers. It is like a hidden river flowing beneath the earth, waiting for you to drill down for water. And when you bore into it with faith, the waters flow. When you believe and affirm, Logos rises and acts. True wisdom is not in shouting or pleading, but in knowing how to be still, to affirm, and to trust. Therefore, from this day, cultivate the habit of scientific prayer. Say to your subconscious, "I am in harmony with Logos. Infinite intelligence guides me. Peace fills me." Say it before sleep. When the subconscious is most open, say it in the morning, at the dawn of your day. Say it in moments of anxiety, as an anchor holding you firm in the storm. And remember, logos is not merely a philosophical notion, not a theory, but the power that animates all things in your life. It beats with your heart, breathes with your lungs, carries your thoughts into reality. The question is, will you use this power consciously or let it operate blindly upon your fears? The choice is yours. If you truly wish to transform destiny, begin with the thoughts you harbor, with the prayers you affirm, with the attitude you hold in silence. For the subconscious will faithfully respond, and logos will move precisely in accordance with the command you give. This is the key that opens to a new life, where limits dissolve, where you truly live as the author of destiny, co-creating with the divine intelligence that governs the universe. The method of practical learning, a pragmatic manual of logos and the subconscious. All that has been spoken up to this point would remain mere theory unless it is transformed into living experience. True understanding does not come from reading much or hearing much, but from allowing thought to sink into the subconscious until it becomes the new bloodstream of your life. Therefore, what you hold in your hand is not a philosophical treatise, but a manual of practice. Every idea is a seed, and a seed has meaning only when planted into the soil of consciousness, watered with discipline and faith, and nourished by daily repetition. In the past, many sought peace in books, health in medical formulas, provision in the outer world, but all these things, without inner foundation, are fragile and fleeting. Peace, health, and abundance are not external acquisitions, but treasures already present within you, like riches buried beneath the ground. The issue is not to seek, but to unlock. The issue is not to beg, but to release. The words you speak, the faith you hold, the discipline you practice are the keys that open this treasure. A woman once came to me burdened with chronic anxiety. She had read many psychological books, traveled to many places to pray, yet her heart remained restless. I showed her that her subconscious was filled with negative imagery, and her task was not to run seeking new answers, but to plant a new command in her mind. I instructed her each morning to simply sit quietly and affirm, I am at peace, I am loved, I am guided. By repeating this daily while picturing her day unfolding in serenity, she found her anxiety gradually dissolving. The change did not come from outside, but from her beginning to apply the principle in practice. This is the method of practical learning. Read with an awakened mind, note what stirs you, and immediately apply it with an affirmation, a visualization, or a small action. You need not do much, only one step each day. But be steadfast, for the subconscious is not changed by a single burst of enthusiasm, but by steady repetition. As dripping water wears through stone, so steady affirmations pierce old habits and open a new path. When you read, always have a pen in hand. Mark the sentences that touch your soul. Rewrite them in your own words. When you write, the subconscious remembers more deeply. Then set a concrete action. If you read that peace is already within you, try this exercise. For 5 minutes, sit still, breathe slowly, and repeat a peace affirmation. That is the way knowledge becomes experience. I once witnessed a man with chronic illness who had tried many treatments in vain. When introduced to this practical philosophy, he no longer asked if it would work, but began to try. Each day he wrote his affirmation, I am healthy. Every cell in me obeys the perfect order. He closed his eyes and pictured his body glowing with new vitality. 3 months later, his doctor marveled at his recovery. Medicine played a role, but the fundamental change came because he practiced this method consistently. You must understand, the subconscious does not respond to empty philosophy, but to clear images, strong emotion, and disciplined repetition. Therefore, any idea you receive must be turned into a definite formula. If you study provision, choose an affirmation such as, "Wealth flows through me from the infinite source." If you study health, choose one such as, "My body is the temple of life, every cell radiant with light." If you study peace, choose one such as, "My mind is the quiet dwelling of supreme intelligence." Then write it, repeat it morning and night, and feel it as already real. Some claim this is self-suggestion, illusion. But the truth is, everyone is already suggesting to themselves daily with negative words. When you say, "I cannot," "I am tired," "I am poor," you are self-suggesting. The subconscious accepts and brings it forth as reality. This method does not create something new. It replaces negative suggestion with positive, old habits with new ones. This manual demands your faithfulness. If you skip a day, the subconscious does not scold, but neither can it record what you have not been consistent in giving it. Each day you practice, the subconscious, like a loyal worker, continues building the structure you assign. Picture yourself as the architect and the subconscious as the crew. Whatever design you draw, the crew builds, no more, no less. Therefore, the crucial matter is not how much knowledge you have, but whether you persist in redrawing the right blueprint until it becomes real. From today, establish for yourself the habit of practical learning. Whenever you read a new idea, ask, "How can I apply this?" Write out an affirmation, an image, or a small act. Repeat it for a week, for a month, and watch the change. You will see peace does not come from outside, but from a change of thought. Health does not come from a distant miracle, but from the subconscious constructing the image you plant. Provision does not come from the market's fluctuations, but from the certainty you hold that you live in a universe of abundance. Here is the essence. Always remember that knowledge becomes power only when practiced. A book read and shelved is useless. An affirmation spoken once and forgotten is but an echo. An image seen but not imprinted is only a fleeting shadow. But when you choose, write, repeat, and feel, your entire subconscious begins to move, and when the subconscious moves, the whole universe moves with it to respond. Therefore, this section on practical learning is an invitation to turn every idea into experience, every affirmation into habit, every page into action. In doing so, you will realize that peace, health, and abundance have never left you. They have only been waiting to be released by your words, your faith, and your discipline. And in that process of practice, you will find yourself rewriting your destiny step by step, not with books left on shelves, but with the living experience of each day. Inner sovereignty, the art of mastering thought. Your life, with all its ups and downs, is nothing more than a mirror reflecting what you have cultivated within your mind. If your inner world is filled with anxiety, outer circumstances will swarm with unrest. If within you abides faith and hope, the world around you will answer with opportunity, peace, and new doors opening. This is not some poetic metaphor, but a precise spiritual law that is operated from eternity. Thought is the seed. Circumstances are the harvest. And your subconscious is the most faithful soil. Therefore, the supreme power of life lies in learning to master your thoughts, guarding the gate of your mind as a vigilant watchman. Remember the image of the engineer in Chicago during the economic crisis. When he lost his job, fear and the sense of failure stormed against the citadel of his mind like enemies seeking to invade. If left unchecked, they would have destroyed his entire life. But when he learned to be the watchman at the gate, he no longer allowed random thoughts to enter. Each morning, he rose like a king, declaring his sovereignty. I master my thoughts. My mind is the instrument of peace, strength, and prosperity. He would not read newspapers, nor answer phone calls in those sacred moments, for he knew that even a small crack would let in the tide of worldly anxiety. After 3 weeks, not only had his attitude changed, but his circumstances as well. A new job appeared. When the inner changes, the outer must obey. Likewise, there was a woman in Los Angeles who lived in constant fear. She dreaded losing her health, her money, her family. Those very thoughts were continual prayers. She did not even realize she was uttering. Every time she imagined loss, she was planting seeds in her subconscious, and the soil, faithful as ever, simply obeyed. I gave her a new formula: plant a different seed, say, I choose thoughts of health, harmony, and abundance. She began to repeat this morning and evening, and gradually the change came. Health returned, family life was restored, finances became easier. What had changed? Not the world, but the guard at the gate of her mind. We all must learn this lesson, that no one but ourselves is responsible for what we permit into the mind. You cannot control the weather, the market, or the actions of others, but you can control the thoughts you allow to dwell within. Epictetus, the Stoic sage, taught that some things are within our power and some are not. The one thing truly under your authority is the thought, the image, the attitude you maintain in your mind. And it is there that destiny is written. If you find your life filled with contradictions and difficulties, pause and ask yourself, what thoughts have I allowed in? Are they thoughts of failure, helplessness, or of faith and opportunity? Everything you are now experiencing is simply the harvest of past choices and thought. And the good news is you can renew it today, change the seed, and a new harvest will come. So now I ask you directly, are you willing to become the guard at the gate of your mind, to refuse entry to negative ideas, and to permit only noble thoughts to dwell within? If your answer is yes, then leave a comment, I am ready to change, or simply type the number 1, so I know you are here listening and walking this path of inner mastery. Thank you for being here, for your presence proves you're not merely listening, but stepping forward into practice. Engrave this truth. Inner sovereignty does not come from forcing the world to change, but from changing the world within. When your mind is at peace, the world reflects peace. When your mind is filled with abundance, the world cannot help but respond with avenues of supply. And when you rise as the watchman at the gate, you know that no circumstance can dictate your fate unless you permit it. Life may be like a turbulent city, but the castle of your mind can always be a fortress. You are the king within that fortress. Rule with wisdom, with faith, with love. And remember, a king never bows to circumstance. The world bows to the authority of the throne. That authority lies within you, waiting for you to use it, to declare it, to live it. Daily discipline of thought, the 15-minute seed sowing ritual. Every day begins with a new dawn, and with it, the opportunity to write another page of your life. In the very moment you awaken, your mind is like a fresh field, untouched by the dust of news, worry, or old habits. This is the most fertile time to plant seeds of thought, for the subconscious is still open and ready to receive. With only 15 minutes, you can set the course of your day, and many days together will shape the course of a lifetime. This habit begins with affirmation before your eyes fall upon a screen, before the outer world drags you into its whirlpool. Sit in stillness and choose a declaration. Speak it slowly, clearly, and with heartfelt emotion. For example, today I live in peace. All things are guided in perfect order. Infinite strength and wisdom flow through me. These words are not empty phrases, but seeds sown directly into the soil of your subconscious. After affirmation, you move into visualization. This is when you draw the blueprint for the subconscious to build upon. If you affirm peace, picture yourself moving through the day with a smile, watching events unfold with ease. If you affirm his, imagine your body brimming with vitality, every cell glowing with life. If you affirm prosperity, see yourself thriving in work, dwelling in a happy home, streams of provision flowing toward you. Visualize not only with the mind, but with all the senses. Feel the joy, hear the laughter, smell the fragrance, touch the abundance as though it is already before you. It is emotion that etches thought into the subconscious. A dry thought will drift away like a leaf in the wind, but a thought infused with feeling becomes a rooted seed. If you repeat affirmations mechanically, the subconscious will not record them, but if you feel the truth in every word, if you tremble with joy or exhale in peace, the subconscious engraves it and begins its work. This is why persistent thought, joined with emotion, becomes the rudder of destiny. A man once came to me in utter exhaustion of body and spirit. I asked only that he devote 15 minutes each morning to affirming and visualizing. He declared, "I am the source of strength and peace. I am guided to right work." Then he pictured himself going to work, meeting colleagues, receiving recognition and fair reward. At first, it felt like mere imagination, but I told him to persist. Soon, his subconscious began to shift. Outer circumstances opened, and a new job appeared. There was no random miracle, only the law in operation. Another example, a woman who began each day in tension. Before arising, her mind overflowed with worries, unpaid bills, unsettled children, poor health. I taught her to replace this with the 15-minute ritual. Each morning she affirmed, "I live in abundance. I am loved. I am cared for by infinite intelligence." Then she closed her eyes and pictured herself entering the kitchen with a smile, conversing joyfully with family, going to work in serenity. Within weeks, she found not only her attitude shifting, but the atmosphere of her home transformed. She became lighter, and the world responded in harmony. Daily discipline of thought is the true insurance of life. You cannot expect a harvest if you refuse to sow each day. You cannot expect a house to stand if you do not lay the bricks. And you cannot expect destiny to change if your mornings are filled only with haste and worry. Each morning is a doorway, and you are the one who decides what image you will step through with. One crucial truth must be remembered. Thought does not merely create a temporary state. It sets the path long term. Skipping discipline for a day may seem to make little difference, but a month, a year, 10 years of neglect will accumulate into a life of unrest. Conversely, if you persist with this 15-minute ritual, each small day compounds into a solid destiny. This is the difference between one who drifts by circumstance and one who steers the ship of fate. Understand also, this practice is not to resist the world, but to align with divine order. When you sow peace, you harmonize with the logos of the universe. When you sow health, you unite with the principle of life operating in every cell. When you sow abundance, you connect with the eternal flow of prosperity. And when aligned, resistance vanishes, and all things flow to you as naturally as rivers to the sea. This daily ritual is also the foundation that steadies you against storms. When life brings trial, the one who is trained each morning stands firm, for the subconscious is prepared, already furnished with images of strength and peace. While the untrained are swept away, the disciplined become leaders, turning adversity into opportunity. Remember, you cannot rewrite yesterday, but you can script today with the thought you sow. Each morning, a new chance is given. Do not squander it on hurry or fear. Treat it as a sacred rite, 15 minutes of covenant with your subconscious, 15 minutes to sow new seed. In time, you will see your life cease to be a string of random events and instead become a deliberate masterpiece where persistent thought has become the helm, steering the vessel of destiny in the direction you have chosen, living by divine nature, flowing with the sacred intelligence in every cell and decision. Within every human being there is a current deeper than the eye can see a divine order at work without ceasing. You do not command your heart to beat, nor direct your lungs to breathe, nor remind your cells to renew. The body already obeys an innate wisdom, a principle of life hidden in every vein and every breath. That wisdom is your divine nature. The inner order which, if trusted, frees you from tension and conflict. Living by divine nature does not mean surrendering in passivity, but cooperating with a higher power, allowing life to unfold from its center rather than being dragged by the pressures of the outer world. Recall the story of a professor. He had spent 20 years in his profession, yet the more he worked, the more depleted he became. Each day in the lecture hall felt not like inspiration, but burden. Deep within, he knew he was born for something else, but he dared not listen. I asked him, have you ever sat quietly and asked within, what would you have me do? He was silent, then began to try. Before sleep, he affirmed gently, the divine intelligence within me guides me in love to my true expression. Vekslotter. He felt a stirring to write. He obeyed the prompting, picked up his pen, and let the words flow. Within months, he published a book acclaimed in the academic world. Joy returned, and he found his voice. This is the power of the voice, within not merely a sound you hear, but a place to which you return. Another case was that of a lawyer I once met. She possessed all that others called success, position, wealth, reputation. Yet inwardly she was restless, plagued by frequent illness with no medical cause. In conversation, she confessed that since childhood she had dreamed of being a painter, but was forced into law by her family. Her soul longed for the brush, but her mind was chained to contracts. I advised her to paint each day for half an hour, not to abandon her career immediately, but to answer the call of her heart. Gradually, her ailments vanished. She opened a small gallery and found a peace that law had never given her. This proved that when one lives contrary to divine nature, the body rebels, but when united with it, body and soul come back into harmony. Divine nature is not selfish, will nor fleeting desire, but the natural tendency of the soul, like the seed bending toward the light to sprout, or the river seeking the sea. When you listen, you will hear it whispering. It never shouts, but patiently waits for your stillness. And when you hear it, inner conflict dissolves, for no division remains between what you do and what you are. Life ceases to be a struggle and becomes a natural flow. Living by divine nature is like the work of a skilled gardener. You do not shout at the seed to grow faster. You prepare the soil, water it, and trust. So with your inner life, you cannot force the soul with anxiety or control. You prepare the mind, uproot the weeds of contradiction, water it with positive affirmations, and trust the divine order to do the rest. A seed never betrays its essence, nor does your soul ever betray its divine nature. Some think living by divine nature means yielding to fate, but in truth, it is active cooperation. Epictetus once said, "Do not wish for events to happen as you desire, but desire them to happen as they do, and you will have peace." This is not resignation, but trust in a greater order, the order that governs the stars and also guides every small decision of your life. When you live in harmony with it, you no longer resist, no longer exhaust yourself, but dwell in the natural current. A woman from Pasadena once told me of her long-standing nervous strain. Though medical tests showed her perfectly healthy, I asked, "Are you heeding your true calling?" She fell silent, then admitted that since childhood she had dreamed of painting, but studied law for her family's sake. I advised her to paint a little each day as an act of obedience to divine nature. As she did, her health returned, her tension vanished, and she rediscovered joy. This is living proof that the body cannot be whole when the soul is denied. And when the soul is heard, the body heals itself. Living by divine nature is the path from conflict to harmony. When you force yourself into molds not your own, fatigue follows, but when you heed the inner call, even amid challenges, you feel light. Weariness comes not from work itself, but from work against the soul. Conversely, peace comes not from doing little, but from doing rightly. If you wish to know whether you are living by divine nature, look to your body and emotions. Is your body often ill, tense, exhausted? Is your mind anxious, dissatisfied, empty? These are signs of going against the flow. But if within you is serenity even while busy, joy even while striving, then you are in the right stream. Your divine nature is the compass within, and Logos is the guiding power. When you live in harmony with divine nature, you need not force life. You take each step with faith, knowing a deeper order upholds you. This is not mere theory, but experience evident in every cell, every decision, every breath. And when you live this way, you discover a profound yet simple truth. Peace is not a reward to come later, but the natural state of the soul when it lives true to its essence, the law of sowing and timing, flowing with the river of providence. A seed placed into the soil quietly obeys an established order. You cannot shout at it to grow faster, nor pull the sprout to make it taller. The seed only germinates in its season, blossoms in its time, and bears fruit in its appointed hour. Likewise, every thought you sow into the subconscious follows the law of sowing and timing. Your task is not to force, but to prepare the soil of the mind, pulling out the weeds of contradiction, watering it with affirmations of truth, and trusting the river of providence to do the rest. In agriculture, the wise gardener knows that if the soil is hard and full of weeds, the seed will never sprout as expected. Before planting, he must plow, remove stones, and clear thorns. So it is in the spiritual life you may sow affirmations of good But if the mind remains crowded with fear, doubt, and resentment, they will strangle the tender shoot. Therefore, the first step is preparing the inner soil, purifying thought. Observe the silent conversations within you. Uproot the negatives and replace them with affirmations of truth. Next, the seed must be watered with repetition. Every affirmation you speak is a drop of water seeping into the subconscious. If you sow once and neglect it, the seed will dry up. But if you steadily repeat morning and night with heartfelt emotion, the seed will take root. An affirmation such as my health is perfect order, peace within me shines outward, or abundance flows through me, is the very water that strengthens the sprout. Yet the most vital lesson is to trust the timing. No one sows today and demands ripe fruit tomorrow. No one plants wheat and despairs when golden heads are absent after a week. But in spiritual life, many act this way. They affirm for days, visualize for weeks, then give up because no results appear. They fail to see that the subconscious is working in silence, that germination occurs beneath the soil before the eye can see. True faith is trust in the process without haste, without compulsion, allowing all things to come in their season. A man once came to me in impatience. He wanted an immediate solution to financial troubles, results by tomorrow. I told him, learn to flow with the river. Each day, sow thoughts of abundance. Affirm the infinite supply at work and live in trust. At first, he was restless, but gradually, he learned patience. Months later, unexpected opportunities appeared, opening a new financial path. He learned the precious lesson. Impatience dries the seed, but trust allows it to grow in season. A woman came burdened by constant tension. She forced herself to succeed quickly, forced herself to be perfect, forced others to bend to her will. This strain brought illness and sleeplessness. I showed her the image of the river. Let your life flow to the sea. The river does not argue with stones. It flows around them. It is never hurried, yet it always arrives. Each day she began affirming quietly, I release compulsion. I trust the divine order at work. Soon her sleep returned, her health was restored, and her career found its course. The law of sowing teaches that everything has its season, season to plant, season to tend, season to sprout, season to harvest. You cannot shorten the cycle, but you can prepare and cooperate. Instead of forcing, plant the right seed, uproot the weeds, water with affirmation, and wait with patience. And you will be astonished when harvest comes, for it always arrives more abundantly than you imagined. Epictetus said, do not wish events to happen as you will, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will be at peace. This is no counsel of resignation, but profound wisdom. To accept the river of providence is to be freed from anxiety. An intelligence is guiding, and if you faithfully sow rightly, the result will come in the right time, the right place, the right way. Remember, the seed never betrays its nature. If you sow thoughts of peace, you will reap peace. If you sow thoughts of abundance, you will reap abundance. If you sow thoughts of love, you will reap love. Only do not dig the seed up each day to see if it has grown. Trust and tend it, and the harvest will surely come. Most importantly, understand that ripening lies not only in the outer result, but in inner growth. When you learn patience, when you release compulsion, you become free from worry, disappointment, and haste. You walk in serenity, knowing you have done your part, and the rest belongs to divine order. As the river flows to the sea, so will your life find its true course. If you trust the law of sowing and timing, you need not force, you need not rush, simply sow, tend, and trust, and in due season, as silently as a seed breaking open in the dark, your life will blossom and bear fruit, yielding outcomes beyond all your calculations, prosperity without chains. The consciousness of circulation and inner freedom. For centuries, people have placed wealth and spirituality at opposing extremes. Some have believed that riches are sinful, that money is the root of all evil. Others have believed that poverty itself is proof of holiness. Yet the truth lies beyond these extremes. Wealth does not make you guilty, nor does poverty automatically make you noble. The essence lies in the consciousness you carry when you relate to possessions. Ownership can be freedom, or it can be bondage. The determining factor is not matter itself, but the spiritual relationship you build with it. This universe is governed by a fundamental law. Circulation. Blood that does not flow coagulates. Water that does not move becomes stagnant. Money that does not circulate loses its value. Prosperity does not dwell in hoarding, but in allowing the flow to continue. You are not called to endless accumulation, nor to rejection of wealth, but to become a channel through which infinite abundance streams. When you understand that money is only a means, you use it with freedom, gratitude, and joy. And precisely because of this, it always returns to you. Take a simple example. Paying a bill. For many, it is a moment of tension. They look at the amount and feel loss. They pay with heaviness, as though something is being taken from them. What they do not realize is that such an attitude is a hidden command to the subconscious. If you pay with resentment, the subconscious records the idea of lack, and like faithful soil, it will produce more conditions of lack to match the image you have sown. A technique I often teach is very simple. Bless the bill. When you receive a bill, hold it and say quietly, "Thank you that I have the means to pay. Thank you for the service I received, for the electricity, the water, the provision. Thank you. That supply is always available for me to meet this obligation. This bill is paid with joy, with love, with gratitude." In practicing this, you transform what seemed a burden into a spiritual ritual, opening the gate of circulation. Many who have applied this discovered that money came more easily not by magic, but because they shifted the frequency of their consciousness. A businessman in San Diego told me that after months of financial stress, he decided to try this technique. Each time he held a bill, instead of sighing, he said, "Thank you that I can pay. Thank you that infinite supply is taking care of me." Within 3 weeks, debts that once seemed impossible to clear began dissolving. New clients appeared. Contracts were signed. He said it felt as if everything had been unlocked. I told him, it was not the world that unlocked, but your mind that did. The scriptures affirm this in Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. These words are not a vague metaphor, but a spiritual formula. It does not say, I shall not lack if the economy is good, if the market is favorable, if my job is secure. It says, I shall not want, because my supply does not depend on men or circumstances, but on the infinite principle of the higher mind. When you absorb this truth, you enter a life no longer governed by fear or greed. The story of a widow in Toronto illustrates this. After her husband's death, she had no steady income. Friends advised her to tighten her belt, to live in limitation, but she chose to live by the law of circulation. Each day she affirmed, Divine wealth pours into me like a waterfall. I live in infinite supply. Whenever she received money, however small, she blessed it, shared a portion, and trusted it would return. 2 years later, her late husband's estranged son, whom she thought gone forever, unexpectedly left her an inheritance. Yet more important than the inheritance was this. During those 2 years, she had never lacked. Her mind had connected with the current of divine abundance, and her life reflected it. So look at your relationship with money. Do you see it as an enemy, a burden, or a companion? Do you fear it will leave, or do you trust it will return? Do you cling to it out of fear, or do you release it in freedom? Remember, money is never the cause. It is only the effect. The true cause is the consciousness you hold. If you think lack, you will live in lack even with a full account. If you think supply, you will live in supply even with a modest beginning. True prosperity does not reside in numbers, but in the consciousness of circulation. One may live in a small house, but share joyfully, and life overflows with abundance. Another may possess vast wealth, but live in fear of loss, and life becomes bondage. Freedom does not come from how much you have, but from the attitude with which you hold what you have. Practice blessing money. Practice using it as a tool for joy. Practice letting it go when needed, receiving it when it comes. Live this way, and you will see that money is like breath, in and out and in again. If you stop breathing for fear of losing breath, you suffocate. If you allow breath to flow, you live. So it is with prosperity. It exists only in circulation. This is prosperity without chains. Wealth does not make you sinful. Poverty does not make you holy. Prosperity is a state of freedom, where you use, give, and receive without fear, without bondage. Then you truly master money. Instead of being mastered by it, you are the director of the flow, for your consciousness is aligned with the infinite source of abundance, the power of the soul in adversity, the art of turning fire into light. No human being walks through life without encountering trials. Some lose wealth, some suffer heartbreak, some face illness or betrayal. Yet what causes collapse is not the event itself, but the meaning one attaches to it. An event is only an event, neutral and bare. It is the way we see it, interpret it, and preserve it within that determines whether it becomes a doorway forward or a wall that blocks. Thus, the power of the soul in adversity lies not in avoidance or denial, but in transforming perspective, in practicing a kind of alchemy of thought, where fire becomes light, and loss conceals the seed of rebirth. The scriptures say, "You shall decide a matter, and it shall be established, and light shall shine upon your ways." This is not mere comfort, but a spiritual formula. Decision here means, first, the decision of perception. If you decide that adversity is destruction, the subconscious makes it so. If you decide that adversity is material for growth, the subconscious turns it into a stepping stone. The belief you hold is the conductor orchestrating the whole experience. Consider the story of a man in San Francisco. A fire consumed his house, his work, all his important documents. He came to me sighing, "I've lost everything. I am ruined. I am nothing." I told him, "No, my son, only what needed to depart has gone. What truly belongs to you remains intact. Your mind, your creativity, your energy, your faith, these are your real assets." I taught him to affirm nightly, "All that happened today is but material for a better beginning. I give thanks for the new life opening before me. 6 months later, with the help of old friends and loyal clients, he began a new enterprise stronger than before. Today, his story is told as proof of resurrection from ashes. Adversity can melt gold, but in the same fire, gold is refined and shines brighter. Those with inner strength know no event can bury them unless they permit it. They practice the alchemy of perspective, looking into every occurrence with the question, what good is hidden here? A business failure can be a school for new wisdom. A broken relationship can be a summons to love yourself. Illness can be a signal to adjust your way of living and give birth to greater health. A woman once confided that her love life felt like a cycle, one relationship after another, each ending in pain. She cried, "Why do I always meet the very kind of person who hurts me?" I told her, "Do not see these experiences as sentences. See them as lessons in love. Each event does not come to destroy, but to teach you your worth." I taught her to affirm nightly, "I have learned, I have grown, I am worthy of respect and joy and love." 3 months later, she met a partner who brought comfort and happiness. Destiny had not changed, she had changed her inner pattern. A useful practice for anyone who wishes to turn adversity into strength is the evening review. Before sleep, look back over your day, not with blame or self-judgment, but like an alchemist examining raw material, ask, where did I react from fear? And where from faith? Affirm, all that I experience today is working together for a greater good. This trains the subconscious to receive every experience in positive light, turning mistakes into foundations and pain into lessons. The alchemical perspective is not pretending that all is well, but the wisdom to see the good concealed within. When you train this sight, adversity no longer strikes you down. It becomes the catalyst that makes you stronger, brighter, deeper. You cease to be a victim of circumstance and become the craftsman transforming crude metal into pure gold. Seneca, the Stoic sage, was stripped of wealth and exiled. Yet in exile he wrote his most profound works. Without exile, those thoughts would not exist. As the seed requires winter to break forth, so too man requires adversity to awaken hidden strength. Remember, the power of the soul is not unfeeling hardness, but the ability to bend without breaking, to be flexible without losing direction. It is the strength to weep, yet still keep faith, to worry in a moment, yet still choose hope, to fail, yet still rise again. This strength does not come from yourself alone, but from union with a greater power. When you say, "I am not alone, infinite wisdom upholds me," the subconscious receives that command and begins to act upon it. Therefore, when adversity comes, ask yourself, what can I learn here? How can this be transformed into opportunity? Practice the evening review. Sow new affirmations into the subconscious, and you will see every trial as bricks laid upon the path of growth. Fire tests gold, trial tests strength, but in the fire, gold glows. And in adversity, you become the radiant version of yourself. Death is transformation, the journey of changing vibrations. For ages, humanity has trembled before death, seeing it as the final full stop, as darkness swallowing all. Yet death, in the light of truth, is not an end, but a transformation. It does not erase, it shifts the vibration. It does not destroy, it carries the soul from one mode of expression to another, just as sleep is not annihilation, but rest before awakening to a new day. So death is a great repose, where the spirit enters stillness only to open its eyes in another realm of light. What truly frightens man is not death itself, but the image he attaches to it. When he believes death is extinction, loss, nothingness, fear is inevitable. But when he knows death as the homeward journey, P.S. Hari says, thus the mature soul does not deny death, but learns to see it with different eyes. The eyes that perceive eternal life. When you understand that your being is not dependent on the body, but on the infinite mind that gave you birth, fear vanishes, for nothing can destroy your true essence. St. Paul wrote, what is sown is the natural body, what is raised is the spiritual body. This is not metaphor, but an exact description of the soul's transformation. The body is but a garment and death, but the moment of changing robes, the actor does not vanish when the play ends. He only changes costume to enter a new role. So it is with your soul. I recall a woman in Miami who came to me after doctors declared medicine could do no more. She did not ask, will I recover, but what awaits me after I depart? I looked into her eyes and said, the soul is pure energy, indestructible, unperishing. She began each night to affirm, I am an eternal being. My life belongs to the higher mind. I walk in peace toward what awaits. Day by day, she repeated this in quiet faith, and though her body did not recover, her face changed. The anxiety lifted, replaced by serenity. When she left this world, she departed gently, leaving her family letters filled with love. Her passing proved that death is not failure, but the transition of an endless symphony. Look to nature, and you will understand. In autumn, the falling leaf is not meaningless death, but return to the soil to nourish spring's buds. A ripened fruit that drops is not destruction, but the beginning of a new tree. The universe knows no finality, only cycles. Your soul, being a spark of eternity, cannot disappear. It merely changes scene, changes octave, changes form of existence. In Stoic culture, there is the reminder, memento mori times, remember, you will die. But this was never meant to instill fear. It was meant to free man from clinging to trifles. It reminds us to live fully, for the body is finite, but the soul immortal. When you see death in the light of truth, you no longer waste time on resentment, greed, or envy. You live with love, gratitude, and dignity. Something wondrous happens when people face death with peace. They grow luminous as though the soul, when released from the body, remembers its origin. They begin to see life with new eyes, where matter is small and love, forgiveness, and stillness are supreme. This is the moment I call the return of the inner voice. This is the power of voice within, not merely a voice you hear, but a sacred space you come home to. It is the holy silence where the soul knows it can never be lost, only transformed to continue the journey. To prepare for that inevitable hour, you need not build a fortress against death. You need only practice daily the awareness of your immortality. A simple method. Before sleep, affirm, I am an eternal soul. My life does not end. I only pass into a higher light. I rest in the embrace of the infinite mind. By planting these words in the subconscious, you free yourself from the terror of finality. And when that day comes, you will walk into it in peace. True strength is not in clinging to life at any cost, but in knowing your life transcends the body, and no moment can sever continuity. Fear exists only in the unenlightened mind. When consciousness awakens to eternity, fear dissolves like darkness at dawn. And then you not only learn how to die in peace, but how to live in freedom. Death, seen from outside, may appear as loss, but in truth, it is transformation. It is the bridge from finite to infinite. from the temporal to the sacred, from the passing to the eternal. When you understand this, you no longer fear, but embrace each day with love and gratitude. And when the hour arrives, you step across that threshold not in trembling, but with the smile of one who knows he is simply going home. The ladder of good and evil, the measure of unity in a world full of noise and temptation. People often confuse what is attractive with what is truly good, what is urgent with what is valuable, what is fleeting pleasure with what is enduring truth. Thus, to live without a clear measure is to let the mind be dragged about by illusions. The ladder of good and evil is not a list of external rules, but an inner principle by which every action and every thought is tested. Good, in its deepest sense, is not what pleases the public eye, but anything that strengthens the awareness of unity. Evil, by contrast, is not always blatant crime, but anything that divides you from the higher mind, from yourself, and from others. St. Paul once wrote, "Think on whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable." This is not a vague exhortation, but a spiritual compass. If a thought cannot pass this filter, it is not worthy to remain. If a decision robs you of peace, if it divides you from unity, then it is not good, even if outwardly it appears reasonable. True good is that which makes the soul whole. True evil is that which splits the soul apart. A tool I often teach my students to preserve such clarity is the moral balance sheet. Once a week, in a quiet evening, take a sheet of paper and divide it into two columns. In the first, write the deeds, thoughts, and words of the week that made you feel more connected to yourself, to others, to life. In the second, write what made you feel distant, divided, or unsettled. Do not condemn yourself. Do not boast, simply observe honestly. To bring these things into the light is already purification. As you look at them, you begin to see patterns, environments, and relationships that either nourish you or pull you away. This observation opens the door to freedom, for what is clearly seen can be changed. Remember the story of a lawyer in Buenos Aires. He was offered a case that promised fame and wealth, but in his heart he knew it was against the truth. He stood at a crossroads. On one side, short-term gain. On the other, inner integrity. He used the moral balance sheet, asking himself, will this decision strengthen unity or break it? The answer was clear. To accept the case would betray his soul. He chose to refuse. At first, he feared losing opportunity, but months later, he was appointed as a judge where he could serve justice in harmony with his inner calling. He did not become rich overnight, but he gained spiritual authority, respect, and peace. And that is enduring prosperity. This is the strength of the inner scale of values. It does not always bring immediate reward, but it shields the soul from disintegration. One who lives by the principle of unity is led to doors no one else can open, for inner clarity creates powerful resonance. One who chases temporary advantage may gain quickly, but the division within soon shows itself as illness, stress, or broken relationships. When you ask, does this strengthen the awareness of unity? You rise above shallow measures. A harsh word may win an argument in the moment, but it weakens connection. A selfish choice may bring personal gain, but it plants the seed of loneliness. On the other hand, an act of fairness, a kind word, may require sacrifice, but it builds the strength no wealth can equal. Seneca once said, "Virtue is the only good, but virtue is not rigid austerity. It is harmony with the deepest self. When you live in virtue, you live in union with your soul. From that union, decisions become clear, relationships pure, actions weighty. Try the practice this very week. In a quiet evening, write your own moral balance sheet. Be honest, for only honesty liberates. Write down the moments you chose pettiness, anger, selfishness, but also write the moments you chose love, fairness, forgiveness. Then look upon it as a mirror, not to condemn, but to see and to choose better for the next week. Over time, you will notice a shift. Actions of unity increase, actions of division decrease. Your soul feels lighter, your decisions easier. For you now have a steady measure, no longer lost in the maze. You walk upon a clear path of light. The ladder of good and evil is not a burden, but a compass. It does not force you into rigid molds, but returns you to the order already present in your soul. When you live by that compass, you no longer ask others what is right. You listen within and know that whatever strengthens unity is good. From there, your life ceases to be a tangle of choices and becomes a symphony where every note resonates in harmony, forming the music of wholeness, immutable happiness, the steadfast joy of presence. For ages, humanity has searched for happiness, yet most have lost their way, for they seek it in externals, in what is fragile and changing. They say, "I will be happy when the economy improves, when I buy a bigger house, when others acknowledge me." And when they attain these things, they find their hearts still empty. Such happiness is like a bubble of water vanishing at the touch, for it is tied to what forever shifts. True happiness is not a fleeting emotion, but a state of consciousness. It is not a reaction to circumstances, but union with the sacred presence within. Psalm 90, uno declares, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." This does not promise that storms will never come, but that storms will not topple you. It does not say there will be no enemies, but that you will not fear them. Why? Because you are dwelling, not visiting, but abiding in presence. There, happiness is no longer subject to weather, markets, or human praise and blame. It becomes a steadfast joy beyond the reach of loss. Picture a farmer in Texas. For years, while others fretted over droughts, bleedzerts, and fluctuating crop prices, he remained steady. His harvests were not always the largest, but they were always sound and sufficient. When I asked him his secret, he smiled and said, "I do not place my trust in rain or prices. I place it in the one who sustains this field." Each morning he looked across his land and whispered, "You are my supply. My joy is not in conditions. My harvest comes from you." That simple affirmation was an inner covenant, and that faith became the foundation of his peace. He proved that happiness does not come from favorable externals, but from inward stability. A practice I often give to those who long for immutable happiness is the silent joy. Each morning, spend a few minutes in stillness, close your eyes, and affirm quietly, "The joy of the higher mind flows through me. My joy does not depend on the world. I am happy because His presence dwells in me." Do not expect a surge of emotion. Only allow the words to sink into the subconscious, like water into dry soil. In time, you will sense a change. What once irritated you shrinks to nothing. Outer turmoil no longer commands your moods. This joy is not loud, but lasting. Not showy, but sure. Let me pause and ask you, have you ever felt a happiness not born of any outer event? A quiet morning when you became aware of your breath, a moment of stillness when gratitude filled you for no reason at all. If you have, that is the source. And if you have not, try the practice of silent joy, and you will discover happiness has never been far. It has only been waiting for you to turn inward. I thank you for listening this far, for your very presence proves you hunger for a joy more enduring, more profound, no longer depend on circumstance. The one with immutable happiness is not one who never meets hardship, but one who stands centered within it. They may lose a job, yet not their peace. They may be betrayed, yet not their faith. They may face illness, yet keep the light within, for they have learnt that happiness does not come from outside, but from the frequency they choose to dwell in. Immutable happiness does not make one indifferent to life. It makes one more alive. When you are no longer ruled by fear and lack, you begin to work, to love, to give from an overflowing source. Work ceases to be burden and becomes expression. Love ceases to be clinging and becomes sharing. And each day, whatever its circumstances, becomes a gift. Live as the farmer in Texas, with trust placed not in conditions, but in presence. Let Psalm 91 become the very breath in you. Practice silent joy each morning, and you will see you no longer need to chase happiness, for you yourself are the dwelling place of happiness. Then your life will shine, not because conditions favor you, but because your inner being has found its eternal home in peace, peace beyond circumstance, surrendering to rest and divine order. The pressure of modern life does not come from heavy work or great responsibility, but from the illusion that we must carry everything alone, that we must control even what lies beyond our reach. It is this very thought that creates tension, draining people in endless anxiety. The body reacts with insomnia, illness, fatigue. The mind becomes restless, chasing imagined scenarios without end. Yet the simple truth is this: stress does not come from outer conditions, but from the futile effort to control the uncontrollable. Wisdom, both ancient and modern, teaches that freedom begins with distinguishing what belongs to us and what does not. We can choose our thoughts, our attitudes, our responses, but we cannot command the weather, the actions of others, or the fluctuations of markets. When the mind clings to what is not within its power, it chains itself to worry. Conversely, when it releases these and turns inward, a river of peace opens independent of environment, undisturbed by change. One powerful tool for reprogramming the subconscious and breaking free from the spiral of anxiety is the prayer of surrender. Each night before sleep, sit quietly and whisper, "I release and I entrust all things in my life are held in divine order. I rest in the peace of the higher mind." When spoken with focus, this affirmation seeps into the subconscious, gradually dissolving the knots of tension stored there. It sends a clear message into the depths of your soul. You are not alone. You are not required to bear everything. A businessman in Chicago endured 6 years of chronic insomnia. Each night his mind raced with numbers, risks, and strategies. His body collapsed with exhaustion. His spirit ran dry. I taught him the prayer of surrender and urged him to practice nightly without fail. After just 5 days, he wrote to me, "For the first time, I slept 8 hours soundly, as though something within told me, you do not have to carry it all. It was the re-establishment of order in his subconscious that freed him from the tyranny of control. And also in New York, having suffered a series of losses, her children, her marriage, her health fell into despair. She felt her life had become nothing but an unending tragedy. I guided her to imagine a gentle light surrounding her body while repeating the words of surrender. At first, each repetition brought tears, as though her soul resisted letting go. But in time, one quiet night, she felt warmth pour into her being, accompanied by a certain inner voice, "You are not alone." From that moment, her life shifted. She did not instantly escape illness or hardship, but she regained the energy to live, to begin new work, to build new relationships. True peace is not the absence of trials, but the ability to stand within them without losing center. Those who have not learned surrender believe peace arrives only after the storm is over. But those who understand the law of mind know that peace is the cause, not the effect. When you rest in presence, you send a clear command to the subconscious. Order already exists, and the subconscious, ever obedient, begins shaping outer conditions to match the inner decree. Notice your body. When you fear, it tightens, constricts. When you surrender, it loosens, breathes freely. Bodily tension reflects the thought of control. Relaxation reflects trust in divine order. Thus, the prayer of surrender is not only a spiritual ritual, but a medicine for both mind and body. It teaches trust, teaches rest, teaches you to let the greater current carry you. As the river bears its waters to the sea, you need not abandon your work, nor flee responsibility to find peace. Peace does not come from changing environment, but from changing stance. When you pause and affirm, "I release, I trust in divine order," a new arrangement begins to unfold. The outer conditions may not vanish at once, but the way you meet them changes, and in turn, the results change. Peace, beyond circumstance, is the capacity to walk in a storm-filled world without letting the storm into your soul. It is the art of knowing that you do your part and the rest belongs to infinite wisdom. It is the faith that even when the eye sees no order, order is still unfolding. And when you live in that faith, your body rests, your mind clears, and your soul is free. Inspired action, the art of being quick yet slow. In modern life, people often feel compelled to act constantly, to respond instantly, to decide in haste. They confuse speed with effectiveness, urgency with wisdom. But action of true power never comes from hurry. It comes from stillness. Inspired action arises from the center, untouched by fear or ambition. Guided instead by intuition, it is a step both light and sure, unforced yet effective, steady rather than scattered. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Be quick yet slow, like a soldier marching with precision, not rushed yet, not delaying." This captures the essence of inspired action. You need not be sluggish, but neither should you be swept into the frenzy of chaos. The secret lies in pausing even for a few minutes to listen to the voice within. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. It is the place where true decisions are born not out of panic, but out of peace. I once met a young architect in New York. He prided himself on making quick decisions, accepting projects, signing contracts, sketching drafts in hours. Yet his work often faltered. Projects went over budget. Clients were dissatisfied. He admitted most of his choices were driven by fear of missing out, not by clarity. I taught him a simple practice that changed his career. Before any important decision, pause for 3 minutes in silence. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Affirm, perfect guidance is within me. I am not hurried. I listen. In those 3 minutes, he did not analyze or calculate. He allowed the deeper voice of intuition to rise. At first, he found it unbearable, as though 3 minutes lasted an hour. But soon he realized what surfaced in that stillness was often very different from his initial reaction. More than once, he avoided risky contracts because intuition warned him. At other times, fresh creative solutions emerged. That reason alone had missed. Within a few years, he became a respected architect, not only for his talent, but for the clarity of his decisions. He told me those 3 silent minutes were the secret, not only to his buildings, but to his life's foundation. Inspired action does not reject analysis. It places analysis in its rightful place. Analysis is the tool, intuition is the compass. The wisdom of the subconscious perceives beyond numbers, sensing harmony or discord from the start. When you give space to listen, you allow the subconscious to convey signals from infinite intelligence. Then your action ceases to be mere reaction. It becomes creation. Notice how nature acts without haste. The sun rises on time, neither too fast nor too slow. Seeds sprout in season, unforced. Rivers flow steadily, never rushed, yet always reaching the sea. Inspired action is the same, not driven by strain, but always arriving. It is the natural rhythm of the universe, and you need only align with it to be carried forward. A practical counsel: practice the 3-minute ritual before pivotal moments, signing contracts, changing jobs, making family decisions. In those 3 minutes, breathe slowly, quiet the noise, affirm, I am guided, I am not hurried, I listen. You will be surprised at the clarity that appears. It may come as a fleeting image, a light sensation, a simple thought, but that is true. Guidance, inspired action, not only produces better results, it conserves energy. Instead of wasting strength on missteps, you focus all resources on the right direction. You do less, yet achieve more, for each step is rooted in the steady center. Life ceases to be a series of frantic moves and becomes a flowing current, creative, sacred. To make inspired action a habit, practice daily. Each morning, spend a few minutes in silence, affirming that you are guided. Throughout the day, pause before each choice, even for a second, to recall that you have a center. At night, review moments when you acted from peace rather than haste. So the subconscious records and multiplies this pattern. When you learn to be quick yet slow, you do not lose time. You save it. You do not pause from indecision. You pause to ensure your step is true. You no longer chase life. You let life flow through you. And thus you become a true creator, one whose actions are not dictated by outer forces, but drawn from inner strength. Remember, this is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. When you dwell in that space, every action is clear, every decision carries weight, and your life becomes a testimony of harmony between stillness and motion. This is the art of inspired action, where every step not only moves you forward, but also reflects the light of the sacred center within you. The daily inner ritual, building the living temple in each day. No growth ever happens by chance. The mind, like the body, must be trained to be strong and nourished, to be wise. One who expects enlightenment without daily discipline is like one who expects a harvest without planting. The inner ritual is the invisible architecture that sustains life, the temple we raise each day through steady habits. 7 simple yet profound practices can turn a scattered existence into a symphony of order and peace. The first practice is scientific prayer upon waking. The moment you open your eyes, the subconscious is soft and impressionable. Do not let worry or old habit seize that instant. Sit quietly and affirm. Today is the day of the higher mind. My mind is clear. My heart is calm. My steps are guided. This affirmation is not mere words, but a seed planted deep in the soil of the subconscious. Whoever sows peace in the morning will reap peace all day. The second practice is inspirational reading in the morning. No need for much, just a few minutes with a verse, a line of philosophy, a passage that lifts the soul. The value is not in the number of pages, but in letting a noble idea soak into the heart. As the morning sun spreads its light through the body, one line from a meditation text, one psalm, or a few words from a sage can impress the subconscious more deeply than a book hurriedly skimmed. The third practice is midday affirmation. When the day has carried you far and fatigue begins to creep in, that is when a fresh stream of energy is needed. Close your eyes for a few minutes. Breathe deeply and whisper, I am guided by infinite wisdom. All things are arranged in perfect order. My energy is renewed. Such brief affirmations are like cool water in the heat of noon, restoring balance and bringing the mind back to center. The fourth practice is evening self-examination before sleep. Review the day not to condemn, but to illuminate. How did you react in moments of difficulty? Where did you keep your peace? Where did fear overtake you? Observing with a spirit of learning gives the subconscious instructions for correction during sleep, so that in the morning you rise wiser. Conclude with prayer. I release this day. I learn from it, and I sleep in peace. The fifth practice is selfless service. Energy flows only when it circulates. Thus each day perform at least one act, not for personal gain, a word of encouragement, a gesture of help, a silent forgiveness. In giving thus, you break the chains of the ego and open the channel for divine energy to flow through your life. One who learns to give is rich within, and that inner wealth always reflects outward. The sixth practice is contemplative walking, at least once daily. Leave the screens in the rush. Step outside. Walk without aim. Without hurry, observe the sky. Listen to the wind. Feel the breath of nature. Immersed in that rhythm, your nervous system resets. Your mind is cleansed. Nature is a silent yet mighty teacher. Its presence alone heals. The seventh practice is resting in presence before sleep. Do not let your day end in noise, news, or strain. Lie still, breathe slowly, and affirm, I rest in presence. Divine wisdom restores me. My sleep is blessed. Envision a light surrounding you like a warm blanket, carrying you into deep rest. By this, the subconscious continues to weave peace through the night, so that you awaken renewed. When these 7 practices are fixed into time, they become ritual, and ritual becomes a daily temple. No soaring domes, no incense, no robes. This temple is raised in your soul. Each day as you enter it, you are reborn in peace and strength. Stability of spirit does not come from fleeting moods, but from small, steadfast habits. Those who keep these 7 rituals will see life transformed. The mind grows clear, emotions steady, decisions firm, relationships pure. You walk with confidence because each day you have rebuilt your temple, and that temple no one can destroy. This is the secret of a life upheld from within, unshaken by any circumstance. The power of words and the sacred author, rewriting destiny through language. The outer world is nothing more than a faithful mirror reflecting the words and thoughts you repeat in silence. Every word you speak, whether aloud or whispered in the mind, is a command sent into the subconscious. And the subconscious, absolutely loyal, does not distinguish between truth or falsehood. It only receives and executes. Thus, your life is written by the very words you choose each day. When you say, I am weak, the subconscious records it, and the body will find ways to manifest weakness. When you say, I am strong, I am healthy, I am at peace, the subconscious also records it. And your nervous system, your cells, your decisions begin to move in that direction. Words are not meaningless sounds. They are creative law. An effective affirmation has three qualities. It is short, positive, and in the present tense, you do not say, I hope to succeed. You say, I succeed and live in fulfillment. You do not say, I wish to be loved, you say, I am worthy of love and I am receiving love. Now, each word must be like a seed planted in fertile soil. Remember, a seed does not need to be long-winded. It needs only to be pure and complete. I once met a businessman in Buenos Aires who, after a failed investment, fell into debt and despair. He prayed for a miracle from outside, but I told him, the miracle is already within you. I instructed him each night to write down images of his account, restored, grateful clients, prosperous business, and to give thanks as though it were already done. At first he felt he was deceiving himself, but he persisted. 2 months later, a new partner appeared, helping him restructure his debt and open a new path. He said, I thought I needed money, but what I truly needed was to reclaim the power within, and it began only when he changed his words. A retired teacher in Mexico once told me she had lost the joy of living, spending her days in stale routine. I advised her to choose 3 short affirmations and recite them during her daily walks. She chose, I am healthy, I am loved, today is a blessed day. At first she repeated them mechanically, but after a moment, her eyes were brighter, her face radiant. She began socializing, planning small projects, even starting a community class. She said, I did not change the world. I only changed my words, and my world has changed. To strengthen this process with form and clarity, I urge everyone to write a consciousness contract. This is not a document for others to see, but a sacred covenant between you and your subconscious. In it, write the central purpose of your life. For example, I live a life of harmony, prosperity, and service guided by divine wisdom. Then record 3 main goals in the present tense as though complete. I am enjoying meaningful work with stable and growing income. I live in fulfilling love and mutual respect. I am healthy and filled with energy. Next, write an inner commitment. I choose thoughts of faith. I act from wisdom. I persevere with joy. Finally, sign and date it. So the subconscious understands this is an order issued. Read this contract every morning and evening until it becomes the background music of your subconscious. When you sign and repeat, you cease to live as a victim of circumstances and become the sacred CEO governing the enterprise of your soul. You were not born to be led by conditions, but to lead them. You are not a victim, but an author. Never forget that each day you are writing with words, with thoughts, with emotions. You can write new chapters of peace, prosperity, and love if you choose to sow the right words. And you can also unknowingly write chapters of lack and fear if you let careless words escape. Train yourself to be strict with your speech. Each time you utter negativity, stop and replace it with positivity. Whenever you feel about to say, I cannot, change it to I can and I am acting. Whenever you are about to say, I am unhappy, change it to I am opening to new joy. These small corrections are how you rewrite the script of life. Words are creative power. Words are seeds. Words are the pen, and you, as the sacred CEO, are writing the greatest work your very life. The world does not impose the script. You are the one holding the pen. Write with wisdom, with faith, with gratitude, and as you do, each page of your life will shine, not random, but bearing the mark of an author who knows who they are. As you bring this 16-part journey to a close, remember that power has never resided outside of you. Every miracle begins within, sprouting from the thoughts you plant, the affirmations you declare, and the discipline you uphold each day. You are not a wanderer drifting through a random stream of life. You are the architect, the author, the sacred CEO of your own being. Take up the pen of language and write the new chapter with faith, with love, with unity. When you do, no circumstance can bind you, for you have become a co-creator with infinite intelligence. This is the greatest legacy, to live the life you have chosen with peace rooted in your soul and prosperity radiating in every direction